Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Welcome to our AmeriCorps State and National Information Session on our 2022 Tribal Grants NOFO. We're so thrilled that you decided to spend part of your day with us, and we're excited to share more about this opportunity with you all. I'm Colleen Hollihan, Policy and Procedure Specialist with AmeriCorps State and National, and I'm joined by my colleagues from the AmeriCorps State and National, Arminda Pappas, Seda Lindsay, and Sumika Petrowski, who will be helping me with our Q&A at the close of our presentation. Today, we'll provide a brief introduction of AmeriCorps State and National, followed by an overview of our Tribal Grants program. We'll cover our planning grants, and we'll review critical elements of the Notice of Funding Opportunity. And as I mentioned, at the close, we'll provide opportunity for question and answer. This presentation is primarily program focused, as we are providing live webinars on budget development and performance measures and evidence in the coming weeks and months. We will field any program questions today, and budget and performance measure or evidence questions can be asked during those upcoming sessions, or can be directed to AmeriCorps@cns.gov. Additionally, we have more information on our Notice of Funding Opportunity webpage. That link has been posted in the chat. So first, let's dive in with a broad overview of our agency, AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is the federal agency connecting individuals and organizations through national service and volunteering to tackle the nation's most pressing challenges. We do this by awarding grants to eligible entities and organizations to recruit individuals to serve or volunteers in communities across the country. To get started and to help illustrate this, I'll share a brief video highlighting our AmeriCorps programs.
As AmeriCorps members and volunteers, we do more than talk about our core values. We take action and commit to making our community stronger.
At AmeriCorps, my commitment to equity gives every student a strong start.
Our compassion brings food and friendship to neighbors in need.
My determination protects parks in my community.
Now more than ever, your community needs you. What's at your core? Learn more at AmeriCorps.gov.
So as you noticed in the video, AmeriCorps programs span various impact areas, including environmental stewardship, education, healthy futures, disaster response, economic opportunity, and veterans and military affairs. As you reflect on the needs of your own community, start to consider how AmeriCorps may be able to support. AmeriCorps offers a wide variety of partnership opportunities, each with unique components, and I'll go over each of them. AmeriCorps State and National is the largest of all of our programs, and it hosts this Tribal Grants opportunity. We provide grants to eligible organizations to meet needs in education, health, the environment, economic opportunity, veteran services, and disaster services. AmeriCorps Vista provides full-time AmeriCorps members to organizations to create and expand programs that bring low-income individuals and communities out of poverty. These projects are typically capacity building focused. The AmeriCorps NCCC program is a full-time residential program for individuals ages 18 to 24 who engage in short-term service projects across the country. This program operates on a regional basis with 5 campuses in different parts of the country. And these members serve on teams, each team with a geographic region and project focus. The NCCC program also leads our agency's disaster services initiative, FEMA Corps. And finally, our AmeriCorps Seniors program specifically engages volunteers ages 55 and older to serve their communities. AmeriCorps also offers funding opportunities for projects for our MLK and 9/11 Days of Service, and our Volunteer Generation Fund invests in volunteer management practices that increase both volunteer recruitment and retention. Partners can also apply for research grants through our Office of Research and Evaluation. More information and details on all of these partnership opportunities can be found at AmeriCorps.gov. Now we'll move into providing detailed information on AmeriCorps State and National, also referred to as ASN. As I mentioned previously, ASN is the program that is managing the tribal grants funding opportunity. ASN awards grants to local nonprofits, local and state government, Indian tribes, and institutions of higher education. Our grant recipients provide opportunities to individuals, AmeriCorps members, to serve in their communities. Since 1994, more than 1 million individuals have served as AmeriCorps members, myself included. Our grantees design programs to meet the most pressing needs in their communities. Here are some specific examples of tribal grantee projects that we have hosted in the past. Assisting tribal members in navigating and obtaining employment and training opportunities. Leading community weatherization and minor construction projects. Improving academic engagement of students on a reservation and providing language immersion class support. Recruiting volunteers to restore water and fish habitats on reservation land. And leading community health outreach related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And finally, supporting programs combating the effects of obesity and diabetes in tribal communities. These are just a few examples of the many projects that we've partnered with. Recipient organizations known as grantees design activities for AmeriCorps members that demonstrate an evidence-based or evidence-informed approach to strengthening communities and solving community problems. ASN grants allow organizations to more effectively address community needs by using AmeriCorps resources to support existing programs. Examples of this could include utilizing AmeriCorps members to provide additional supports in tribal after-school programs or developing and supporting tribal food programs. AmeriCorps also allows organizations to reach previously underserved communities and expand their activities beyond what they were able to do without AmeriCorps. Examples of this could include creating a new program to provide academic coaching and GED prep support to young people, or recruiting volunteers to expand career training services provided for tribal community members. It's important to note that AmeriCorps state and national funds cannot be used to duplicate, displace, or supplant resources that exist in a community. AmeriCorps members or grant funds can help meet unmet needs or can expand an organization's ability to better address community needs, but they don't take the place of community resources that already exist. AmeriCorps is committed to working on a nation-to-nation basis with tribal nations and upholding the federal government's tribal trust responsibility. Our specific priorities for this grant competition are efforts to help local communities respond to and recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Applicants here may propose programming to aid communities in their efforts to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, including outcomes of COVID-19 on student subgroups. Educational opportunity and economic mobility for communities experience persistent unemployment or underemployment, and students experiencing homelessness or those in foster care. Programs that prioritize civic engagement or social cohesion. Economic opportunity, including digital skills and increased access to broadband. Education, including improving student academic performance in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, traditional knowledge and indigenous language, and/or serving students who attend Bureau of Indian Education schools. Veterans and military families, caregivers, and survivors, including a program model that improves the well-being of military families, caregivers, and survivors. And finally, environmental stewardship and climate change, including renewable energy and energy efficiency, building community resilience, sustainable food systems and agriculture, water, wastewater, and conservation and habitat preservation. To receive priority consideration, applicants must show that the priority area is a significant part of the program focus and intended outcomes. Proposing programs that receive priority consideration does not guarantee funding. A partnership with AmeriCorps State and National provides the opportunity for you to utilize the assets and resources of your own community to create a new program or build upon an existing program to meet pressing needs. Here in this quote, a tribal grantee shares their perspective on how a partnership with AmeriCorps allowed them to create a GED program to support tribal members who had left high school before completion. So as you're taking in this information and thinking about how you can utilize AmeriCorps members to help your community, think about the following questions. How is your community currently tackling challenges and needs? And how can AmeriCorps members support those efforts? How could AmeriCorps members support you in increasing the capacity of the services you currently provide? What skills and training could your organization provide for AmeriCorps members? And what support could you provide the members in their service? Now we'll dive into more specifics about ASN's tribal grants opportunity and the requirements. Each year, 1% of AmeriCorps funding is set aside specifically for federally recognized tribes. The total amount changes depending on the size of the appropriation and other factors. In fiscal year 21, ASN invested $2.3 million of funding for 11 grantee partners. These partners hosted 152 AmeriCorps members. Our smallest grant award supported 10 AmeriCorps members and our largest supported 20. The Code of Federal Regulations, specifically 2 CFR 200.1, defines Indian tribe as any Indian tribe, band, nation, or other organized group or community, including any Alaska Native village or regional or village corporation as defined in or established pursuant to the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, which is recognized as eligible for the special programs and services provided by the United States to Indians because of their status as Indians. In addition to Indian tribes being eligible, tribal organizations that are controlled, sanctioned, or chartered by federally recognized Indian tribes are also eligible to apply for this opportunity. An entity that desires to apply for a grant as a tribal organization on behalf of a federally recognized tribe or multiple specific federally recognized tribes must submit a sanctioning resolution adopted by the tribal council or comparable tribal governing body of each tribe. The resolution must identify the nonprofit by name as a tribal organization, and it must authorize the nonprofit organization to act on behalf of and include the tribe in an AmeriCorps grant application for the purpose of conducting the activities and providing the services described in the application. Information on this can be found in the NOFO. Funded AmeriCorps state and national grantees are responsible for the following aspects of program management: recruiting, interviewing, and selecting members, providing regular training and supervision to members, tracking and reporting on performance measures that capture significant program outputs and outcomes, and finally, managing fiscal and reporting requirements. Awarded grantees will be supported by an agency portfolio manager who will provide resources and technical assistance in these areas. All applications must include at least one aligned performance measure, including an output and an outcome that corresponds to the proposed primary intervention. This may be a national performance measure or an applicant determined measure. See the performance measure instructions for details about performance measure requirements and selection rules. As mentioned previously, you can check out the NOFO page to register for our webinars that will focus primarily on performance measures and evidence. These webinars will walk you through how to create high-quality performance measures that align with the program design and meet requirements outlined in the NOFO, and will also answer any additional questions you might have on performance measures. These webinars are scheduled for late March, and registration is on the NOFO page. AmeriCorps anticipates making 3-year program operating grants and 1-year planning grants in this competition. The agency generally makes an initial award for the first year of the period of performance based on a 1-year budget. Continuation awards for subsequent years are not guaranteed as they depend upon satisfactory performance. Applicants may apply for either a cost reimbursement or fixed amount type of award. However, new applicants are only able to apply for cost reimbursement funds. For cost reimbursement grants, applicants are required to match funds based on a chart in the NOFO. The applicant's match can be non-AmeriCorps cash and/or in-kind contributions. For fixed grants, there is no match requirement. However, AmeriCorps does not provide all the funds necessary to operate the program. Therefore, organizations should raise the additional revenue required for operations. Through these awards, the following slot types are available: full-time, 3/4 time, half-time, reduced half-time, quarter time, minimum time, and abbreviated time. I'll review what each of these slot types mean in the next slide. For a cost reimbursement grant, a budget submission is required and grantees will have financial reporting requirements. Availability of funds is not linked to enrollment and retention of awarded member slots, referred to as member service years or MSY, for cost reimbursement grants. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be having a webinar on focus primarily on budget next month, and information on that webinar is on our website. AmeriCorps uses the term member service year or MSY for program budgeting. One MSY is equivalent to a full-time AmeriCorps position serving at least 1,700 hours. For example, one full-time member serving 1,700 hours equals one MSY, and 17 abbreviated time members would also equal one MSY. The maximum funding amount an applicant may request from AmeriCorps per MSY is determined on an annual basis. The chart here shows the various terms of service or slot types that you can use in designing your program and the minimum number of hours a member must complete if serving in that slot. You should consider what types of member service terms best support your program design in addressing critical community needs. Most AmeriCorps members have up to 12 months to complete their term of service. The actual term may be shorter and is rarely longer than 12 months. This is all dependent on your program design. Specific terms of service that are tied to actual AmeriCorps members are also referred to as slots. You can design a program utilizing one or multiple types of slots. A 900 or 675-hour slot might be utilized by a program engaging college students in service during the academic year. 1,700-hour slots are equivalent to 35 to 40 hours a week over a 52-week span. In designing your AmeriCorps program, you should review the intensity of the intervention you are proposing, as well as the variety of responsibilities your members will have. Then you would determine the number and type of member positions you will need to effectively impact the community or communities where your program will serve. Our 1-year grant opportunity is for a planning grant. A planning grant provides support to a grant recipient to develop an AmeriCorps program that will engage AmeriCorps members in implementing evidence-based interventions to solve community problems. Grant recipients are awarded up to $75,000 for a 12-month planning period and are expected to be better prepared to compete for an AmeriCorps program grant in the following grant cycle. A planning grant may not be used to support AmeriCorps members. Planning grants are a great opportunity to expand upon an idea you may have for an AmeriCorps program and gain access to agency staff and technical assistance while mapping out your program idea. Applicants for planning grants will apply for a cost reimbursement grant. The project period is no more than a year with a start date proposed by the applicant, and the project start date may not occur prior to the date AmeriCorps awards the grant. Here are a few examples of how planning grants have been utilized in the past. Creating a family literacy program, designing a culturally competent healthcare intervention program, or developing a multi-service program to meet tribal needs, which could include education, health, or workforce development. These are just a few examples. As we mentioned in our previous slide, planning grants serve the purpose of developing an AmeriCorps program based on an idea or a community need. And now we'll move into our FY22 Tribal Grants Competition and more information about applying for funds. The NOFO is soliciting for program grants and planning grants and can be found on the NOFO page on our website, which we've shared the link in the chat. In addition to the notice on this page, you can also find the mandatory supplemental information, application and performance measure instructions, and all of the registration information for upcoming technical assistance webinars. In the agency's web-based management system, eGrants, applicants will enter the following components of a complete application. The standard form 424 or SF424 face sheet. This is automatically generated when applicants complete the data elements in the system. Then you'll complete the narrative section. The executive summary is a brief description of the proposed program. For program design, you'll provide information on the program's theory of change, evidence-based priorities, and member experience. For organizational capability, you'll include information on organizational background and staffing, compliance and accountability, organizational culture, and member supervision. The cost effectiveness and budget adequacy section is your budget. And finally, you'll provide an evaluation plan if applicable. This is only applicable for recompeting grantees. Your application will also include your logic model, your standard form 424A budget, your performance measures, and authorization, assurances, and certification. Note that the application criteria requirements for planning grants slightly differ from this slide. Please see page 25 of the NOFO for these details for planning grants. Applications must not exceed 10 double-spaced pages for the narratives. Planning grants may not exceed more than 7 pages. The application sections that count toward the page limit are the SF424 face sheet, the executive summary, the program design, organizational capability, and cost effectiveness and budget adequacy narratives. The application page limit does not include the budget, performance measures, or any required additional documents. The logic model may not exceed 3 pages when printed with the application from the Review tab in the agency's web-based management system, eGrants. Please note that the length of the application as a word processing document may differ from the length of the document printed out in eGrants. The character limit in eGrants do not align with page limits set in the notice. We strongly encourage applicants to print out the application from the Review and Submit tab in eGrants prior to submission in order to confirm that the application does not exceed the page limit. AmeriCorps will not consider the results of any alternative printing methods when determining if an application complies with the page limit. Reviewers will also not consider material that is over the page limit, even if eGrants allows applicants to enter and submit additional text. Each applicant must describe a project that will deploy AmeriCorps members effectively to solve a significant community problem. AmeriCorps urges applicants to submit high-quality applications that carefully follow the guidance in the notice and in the application instructions. The quality of an application will be an important factor in determining whether an organization will receive funding. The review criteria categories are consistent across all applications, while the subcategories are different for planning grants as they do not have members or MSY. The review criteria categories are as follows: the executive summary, 0%, program design, 50%, organizational capability, 25%, and cost effectiveness and budget adequacy, 25%. The AmeriCorps State and National cost per MSY is determined by dividing the AmeriCorps share of budgeted grant costs by the number of MSYs requested. It does not include childcare or the value of the education award a member may earn. The maximum amount an applicant may request from AmeriCorps State and National per MSY is determined on an annual basis. The standard maximum cost per MSY for cost reimbursement tribal grantees is listed here as $21,600. AmeriCorps requires professional core programs to cover the operating expenses associated with the AmeriCorps program through non-AmeriCorps resources. The agency will only consider operating funds up to $1,000 per MSY if an applicant is able to demonstrate significant organizational financial need. Applicants must submit applications electronically via eGrants, our agency's web-based application system. We recommend that applicants create an eGrants account and begin the application process at least 3 weeks before the deadline. Applicants should draft the application as a Word document, then copy and paste the text into the appropriate eGrants field no later than 10 days before the deadline. The applicant's authorized representative must be the person who submits the application. The authorized representative must use their own eGrants account to sign and submit the application. And a copy of the governing body's authorization for this official representative to sign must be on file in the applicant's office. Applicants should contact the AmeriCorps hotline, and there's information on a slide coming up as well as on the NOFO page, or via eGrants questions if you have any problems when creating an eGrants account, preparing or submitting your application. The AmeriCorps hotline hours are also posted on the hotline link on our website. As mentioned, we have many training and technical assistance calls coming up in the upcoming months, and we'll support with different areas of the application. We'll be hosting 4 open Q&A calls in February and April, including a call next Wednesday, February 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern to provide an opportunity for follow-up and additional questions you may have. The registration links for all of these opportunities and additional information can be found on our Tribal Grants NOFO page. Our applications are due on Wednesday, May 4th by 5 p.m. Eastern Time to AmeriCorps via eGrants, and we expect to notify successful applicants by early July 2022. Here are some links to applicant resources. Please remember the notice should be read together with the AmeriCorps regulations, the mandatory supplemental information, the application instructions, and the performance measure instructions. All of these documents are available on the 2022 AmeriCorps State and National Notice page and on our web under funding opportunities. Please make sure that you review all of the application materials carefully, and you could send any additional questions you might have to AmeriCorps@cns.gov. This session has been recorded, and we will be sharing the link on our NOFO page as well. So if you missed anything, the information will all be caught up there. And now we'll pause and take questions. I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Sumika Petrowski, who will be fielding and facilitating the Q&A section of this session. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A, or raise your hand to unmute and we'd be happy to answer.
Great. Hi, everyone. Not currently seeing any questions in the chat, but feel free to pop them in. Like Colleen said, just had some questions on the presenter end if the recordings will be on the NOFO page, and they will. It just takes a little bit of a turnaround, and then we get them posted. And as the sessions go on through the next couple of weeks, we'll be updating that and switching out where the recording or the registration link is for the recording. So that's just good to know. Still not seeing any questions, but there is time to take in this information.
And I will add that this is not your only chance. So if you have questions that you think about and you want to attend the Q&A session next Wednesday, you're welcome to join that as well. Those sessions will be open, so we'll have staff on hand to answer any questions you might have about the application or what's in the notice. And then our specific sessions on budget, performance measures, and evidence will be coming up in the upcoming months as well. If you have a question, maybe that happens to pop up after hours this evening, you're welcome to also email AmeriCorps grants@cns.gov, and we'll get back to you with an answer.
I do see we have a question in the Q&A. Reading it verbatim, forgive my confusion, but for the first time tribal organization applicants must apply for a 1-year planning grant prior to being eligible for a 3-year grant. I'm going to pass that to our grant review manager, Arminda Pappas.
Thanks, Tamika. That's a great question. And no, it's not required. First-time applicants can choose to either apply for an operational grant, a regular 3-year operational grant, or the 1-year planning grant, whatever is going to work best for your organization and for what you're proposing to do, you can totally make that choice.
Great, thank you, Arminda. Colleen, I'm not seeing any additional questions, but that, you know, you can still think about it. That was a great question. I appreciate that in the Q&A or the chat.
We'll hang out for a couple more minutes, and if we don't see any questions, then we'll close up for today, but we'll just give you a couple more minutes in case anything comes up. Okay, I think we can move on. Oh, we have one more question, it looks like.
Or if you saw, you say it and something appears, Colleen. Another question in the Q&A. For first-time tribal organization applicants, will AmeriCorps personnel be deployed to grantee location? It was a bit confusing. Arminda, would you mind answering that if you have an answer for that?
Sure, thanks. So organizations propose to engage AmeriCorps members in performing service in their communities to address needs. So if your organization proposes a program and is successful and is funded, you will engage AmeriCorps members in addressing that community need that you've identified. Funded applicants become our agency's grantees, and funded applicants, grantees, then are assigned an AmeriCorps agency program portfolio manager who will assist you, the grantee, then in the implementation of your program. So if you have questions and need assistance with any technical and training assistance, the AmeriCorps agency staff member, your portfolio manager, would assist you in that way. I hope that clarifies it.
Thank you, Arminda. And Amanda, if you needed more clarification, feel free to drop something in the chat or reopen a question in the Q&A. Thank you all. These are great time to clarify anything you've been reading or wondering about. So I see a question from Brandon. Can a TDHE apply to increase access to broadband? Due to COVID, a lot of things have become virtual. I believe that is a program focus area. Arminda, would you like to answer that?
And I'm going to profess my ignorance. I'm sorry. I don't know what TDHE stands for, but really applicants are encouraged to apply with proposed programs that will address any identified problem in their community that they think tribally designated housing entity. Great, thank you. I appreciate that. So if that tribally designated housing entity fits or is eligible according to what is laid out in the NOFO, the definition of an eligible organization, they could definitely apply. And again, increasing access to broadband is one of the NOFO priorities. Applicants do not have to include a NOFO priority. You can apply to address any identified problem or need in your community, but we do have these priorities in case one of them does fit the need or the problem that you are going to try to address with the program. So I hope that answered your question, and if not, please let me know.
Now, as we wait for Brandon to follow up in the chat, if necessary, we have another question from Amanda. You mentioned matching funds required to apply as a tribal organization. What percentage will need to be matched? Apologies.
So that's a great question. I believe the matching percentages are included in the application instructions, and it depends on the years that your organization has received AmeriCorps funding. If it's the very first year, it starts off at 24% and then goes up from there according to the years. But that's also a really great question to bring to our budget webinar when our colleagues in the Office of Grants Administration and who are our budget experts can answer all of those for you.
Great, thanks, Amanda. And thank you, Colleen, saying that page 9 of the NOFO for matching requirements chart. It's great. Keep them coming. These are great clarifying questions, either in the question and answer or the chat. Brandon said thank you. So I guess your answer, Amanda, was sufficient. Anything else? Feel free. And it seems like our pauses have been fruitful in generating questions. So we'll hang out for another minute.
And while we're hanging out, Colby, can you advance the slide? I just want to pull up the final contact information so folks have it there. So as you're continuing to think about questions or maybe continue or getting ready to sign out, here is the information for both follow-up questions as well as the National Service Hotline, which is our eGrants support line if you have any issues setting up your eGrants account to apply.
Well, I'm not seeing any additional questions. Thank you, Seda, for putting in the application instructions. If folks want to check that out for more information regarding match, I'll turn it back over to Colleen.
Yeah, thank you all for your thoughtful questions and for joining us today to learn more about this exciting opportunity. We are here to support should you have any questions as you begin your application. And as I mentioned, we have other informational webinars to address different aspects of the application. So feel free to reach out. Don't be a stranger. Feel free to join us for any future Q&A or upcoming sessions. And all of the information from today, as well as from the follow-up sessions that will also be recorded, will be on that NOFO page. So thank you again, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Have a good afternoon.